Hey guys, my name is Aubrey and welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, this is my channel and here we discuss all things business, entrepreneurship, personal finance, things like Turo, Airbnb, and everything in between. If you are new here, then I would greatly appreciate you hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button. It really helps YouTube algorithm and it helps my channel grow. If you are coming back and you already are a subscriber, then I appreciate you and I appreciate you sticking around. So today I want to cover one of the #1 posted questions on forums, on Facebook, on YouTube over Turo. And that is the question of what type of cars make the most money? And I really want to answer the elusive question of, can I rent a high-end luxury vehicle or a supercar on Turo? Now, for those of you who don't know, I am a Turo host. I have over a dozen vehicles on the platform. I've been on the platform for almost 3 years and I run a successful business on the platform. So I know the platform really well and I have a good idea of what cars do best. But I have not ran these numbers prior to this video, so I'm going to be going through this for the first time along with you guys. Now we're going to be using some basic math to figure out which types of cars have the best ROIs. We're going to be doing 3 genres, and these are going to be kind of vague genres. They're not going to be 100% accurate, but you can use the same thought process and the same math to figure out if your car would be a good car to rent on Turo. So the 3 cars we're going to be using is we're going to do a low tier economical car, so a type of car that's under $10,000. So it's something like a used Prius, a Toyota Yaris, a Toyota Corolla, a Nissan Versa, things like that. The second car that we're going to be doing is a middle tier, something like an Audi, a BMW, Mercedes, those types of makes and models. The cars that probably, if you were to buy them used, you could buy them in like the 20 to 30 range, but if you were to buy them new, they'd be closer to like 40 to 50, $60,000 range. And the third car we're going to be doing is the elusive high-end luxury or supercar, something like a Ferrari, Lamborghini, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Audi R8, things like that. So what we're going to do to calculate the ROI on these vehicles is we are going to go on Turo, we're going to go on the website, and we're going to find about 10 examples of these 3 types of cars. We'll find 10 like lower-end cars, 10 mid-tier cars, and then 10 supercars or high-end luxury vehicles. Then what we're going to do is we're going to average out the cost per day to rent these vehicles, and then we're going to figure out how long it will take you to make a return on your investment. So what will your ROI on these cars be? Now, a couple of things that I do want to note before we get started is we aren't going to take into account the purchase price that these people may have paid for the vehicles. Now, if you saw my review of the I had 200 plus rentals and no profit video that I posted last week, then you'll see that a comment that I made in that video was that ROI depends greatly on what you paid for the vehicle. And on Turo, we don't know what people paid. And whenever we're going through and we're doing this exercise, we're not going to know what people paid for the vehicle. So we're just going to have to kind of go onto KBB or cars.com or Auto Trader and kind of figure out what the average is. But the cost that you paid for a vehicle greatly affects the ROI. So it won't be 100% accurate for that reason. The other thing I want to note is that we will not be taking into account maintenance costs for this ROI calculations either, just because it's too hard to say and it makes the kind of equation too complicated for this video whenever you take into account oil changes, registration, insurance, and tires. So just keep that in mind that we're not going to be taking into account maintenance. We're also not going to be taking into account the amount that they paid for the vehicle. We are just going to take like the average cost of that vehicle compared to the average rental price per day and figure out which car makes sense based off of these 2 factors. This equation works. I do this a lot with my own cars whenever I'm deciding which car I want to get next. And you can use this same equation to figure out what type of car is best for you to rent out on Turo and to also answer the question of which types of cars are the most profitable and get the fastest ROI on Turo. So let's get started. So the 3 that we will start with is we have so let's first, I guess, start by labeling out this graph. So we have our 10K range. In the middle, we will put our mid-tier. So like, let's just say 30K to 60K, which I know is a pretty large range. And then for the mid-tier, like for the high end, let's just put like 80K plus, like supercar status, but even 80K is really cheap for a supercar. So we are now on the screen for Turo. So we already had a 2013 Jetta, which was listed for $26,000. a day. A 2008 Chevy Aveo, that is $20 a day. So let's do 08 Chevy. I guarantee you that costs significantly less than 10K. 20. We have an Elantra. That might be more than 10K, so we'll leave that off because that's a 2017. We have a 2008 Prius, a 2018 Sentra, a Honda Fit, we have a 2015 Model S. That's at 98 a day, so I'll put that in the middle tier because it's a 15, maybe new, it would be over 80K, but not recently. So I'm gonna put that in the mid tier, so I'll put the Model S. We have a Model X. I'm gonna put a Model X in the 80K plus, but that's a 2016. That's where it gets kind of hard because like a Model X now you could get for 60, 70,000, but depending on when they bought it, it could have been 100. So I'll leave that one off. But we have a Mercedes-Benz E-Class. I'll put that in the mid tier as well because I certainly wouldn't consider that a supercar. Okay, so we're finally getting into this like kind of supercar range. So we have a Maserati, a Model 3, I would consider that mid-class. Ford Fusion, I know that those are cheap because I have multiple Ford Fusions. A Fusion, $31 a day. Let's do a 4Runner because that is definitely mid-tier. A 13 Camry. Let's keep looking for some good ones. A Fiat, we're gonna do that in the cheaper range. Jeep Wranglers are definitely in the 30K range, so I'll put Jeep. Let's do a 15 Beetle, we'll put that in the lower tier. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so we need one more lower tier. We need a lot more high-end cars. There's a 2018 Focus, we'll do this in the low tier. Focus. 23. Okay, so we're done with the low tier. Audi Q5 for $60 a day. An X4. Oh, that is a cool transporter car. A Q7, $97 a day. We'll do a Ghibli because those are pretty cheap. So Ghibli. So we now have all of our mid tiers. Now we need to look for our high-end cars. So let's sort by, let's add some filters. So let's look for a Lamborghini somewhere. I'm actually gonna change this because I think 80K to, let's do 200K. And then let's do this 10 to 20. Okay. So the new range is 10 to 20,000, 30 to 60,000, 80 to 200,000. So we have the Maserati that we already got for $149. There's a Huracan here for $615, which I know costs more than 200,000, but we'll leave it. A Gallardo for $509. Another Gallardo, 2008. Okay, so now let's look for a Ferrari, just to vary it up a bit. So we have a California for $327. There's a lot of Californias here. 488. We have a Continental. We have another Continental in the 250 range. So there's a lot of Continentals on Turo, and they're between like 200 and 500. So we'll do this one at 250. Now let's see if there's any Audi R8s. Let's go for those. There's one here for 224. And then another one for, let's say, 379. So we have all of our numbers, so now let's average them out. So here we have our final numbers. We have 10 of each. We have our 10 to 20K range, which is like what I would consider entry level or like economical cars. Our 30 to 60K range, which is like a mid tier, or our 80K to 200K, which I would consider to be like supercars, high-end luxury vehicles, things like that. So for simplicity's sake, let's say that the average cost of these cars is 15K. The average cost of these, let's say 45. And for these, let's say the average cost is 140. So if we take these 10K rentals and we add them all together, that gives us 265. Let's divide it by 10 to get the average. That's $26.5 per day. So let's do rental. Now let's do the same thing over here to the mid-tier cars. So if we average out all of these mid-tier cars together, we get an average of $106.20. And now let's do our high-end luxury cars. So if we add up all of these together to get the average, we would get $384.90. So in this example right here, the average cost or the average rental price per day for a entry-level economical car is $26.50. For a mid-tier car, the average rental price is $126.20, and the average rental price for a high-end luxury vehicle or a exotic car is $384.90. So that means that with these cars, you could potentially make $795 per month on the economical, $3,786 for the mid-tier, $11,547 per month on the exotic cars. So looking at this, it seems like the obvious answer for gross earnings would be to go with this high-end luxury vehicle like a Maserati, a Huracan, a Gallardo, a Ferrari California, a Ferrari 488, or a Bentley R8, things like that. But the thing about Turo is that you can't just look at the gross, you also have to look at the net as well. So let's calculate the ROI here. So if we rent out an economical car that we got for $15,000 and we rent it for $26.5 per day, it would take us 566 days or about a year and a half to make our ROI back on this car, which means that it will take us roughly 1.5 years to make our money back on this vehicle. Now let's do the mid-tier. So if we buy a mid-tier vehicle for $45,000 and we rent it out for $126.20, it will take us roughly 1 year to make our return on investment. And lastly, let's do our supercars. So if we buy a car for $140,000 and we rent it out for $384.90 every single day for a year, how long will it take us to get our ROI back on that? It will again take us about 1 year to make our money back. So here are the numbers don't lie. Based off of purchase price alone, if you were to buy a car that costs $15,000 and you were to rent it for $26.5 per day and you rented it for an entire year consecutively, you would make a profit in about 1.5 years and you would have the car paid off. That is assuming you would average at that $26.5 per day mark. As for the middle tier, if you were to buy a middle tier car for $45,000, you rented it every single day for a year, you would make that money back in just over a year. I think the exact number was like a year and 3 days. And as for the high-end luxury or the supercar vehicles, if you were to buy a $140,000 car and you were to rent it out for $384.90 a day and you rented it out every day for a year, you would make your money back in about a year as well. It was exactly, whenever I did the math, it was actually about 1 day under a year, so a little less than a year. To be honest, I'm a little bit surprised about this math. So let's get into this a little bit. So we ran the numbers. Now, I must admit that these numbers are a little bit oversimplistic and they definitely aren't meant to be like a end-all be-all guide on what cars are most profitable on Turo. I must say that the one with the best ROI was the high-end supercar, the second best was the mid-tier, and the worst was the economical, and all of my cars are considered economical cars. So according to this math, I have the worst cars that you could have on Turo. But this is overly simplistic in the sense that this is taking into consideration that you rented these cars every single day for a year and there was no maintenance involved, which just isn't really realistic when it comes to Turo. You aren't going to be renting out your cars every day. I would assume that the high-end luxury supercars get rented out less and have lower utilization than the mid-tier cars, and the mid-tier cars probably have a little bit lower utilization than the lower-end cars just because the lower ends are cheaper and more accessible. It isn't taking into like reality into the situation. It's not taking into account the fact that you will have to change tires, you will have damage on the cars, you will have wear and tear on the cars, and it's not taking into account that the cars probably aren't going to be rented out every single day for an entire year. The other thing that you have to take into account is insurance on Turo, is that depending on what protection plan you get, even if you have your car rented out for $26.50 a day or $384.90 a day, you're not going to be getting that full earnings. You're going to have to give up a percentage to Turo, so this math also doesn't take that into account. So all in all, I wouldn't use this exercise as a way to like go out and get a $140,000 loan today and get a car for Turo. That would be a horrible idea, and I absolutely do not recommend that. But what this exercise does go to show is it gives you a good idea on how you can calculate this for yourself. Is if you have a number of cars that you're looking at on Turo, use this exact same thought process to figure out which car would be the best. I mean, if you are debating between like a Ford Focus or a Hyundai Sonata or a Volkswagen Jetta, then figure out what those cars are renting for, do the math, and figure out which car will give you the quickest ROI. Same goes if you're debating on different genres of car. If you're wanting to kind of dabble in the high-end luxury supercar market, but you're wondering if you should buy one high-end supercar or maybe 3 like mid-tier cars, then run the numbers on that. This is a really great exercise to kind of get your brain flowing and get your mind going around the math of how to calculate the ROI for a car in Turo, but it absolutely is not me recommending for you to go out and buy a high-end supercar today. But I am surprised that all in considered that the high-end supercar is the one that won. I was pretty sure that the low-end economical cars were going to get the highest ROI, but one thing I did notice as we were going through this exercise is there was a lot of really cheap cars that were being rented out at good prices, but there was also a lot of expensive cars that were being rented out for really low prices. If you, for example, there was a 2018 Sentra being rented out for $25 a day. In my opinion, I think that that's a fair price for the renter's standpoint, because I don't think that a Sentra is worth much more than $25 a day. But I think that whoever bought that Sentra probably isn't making a whole lot of money on it, because they probably spent more than $10K on that Sentra. Same goes for like the 2009 Honda Fit. That's $25 a day. So this guy who has a 2018 Sentra, he's renting his car for the exact same price as a guy that has a 10-year older car. And so that is something to keep in mind, is like some of these cars are rented too low for their year and their price point. Some of them are rented a little bit too high, but it doesn't really matter what your rental price is as long as people are willing to rent it. So all in all, this was just kind of a fun exercise. I was curious to see myself which cars did the best, and I wanted to record a video about it. I also wanted to kind of show what my process is when I'm looking for a car. I've now been in this game for 3 years, so I really kind of go for the same cars. I tend to go with what I know. But whenever I was first starting out, I did almost this exact same exercise to figure out which cars I wanted to get. Also, an important thing to note is that we put our lowest tier in the 10 to 20K range, but there are a lot of cars on Turo that are significantly less than $10,000. In fact, the only car I have on Turo that I spent more than $10,000 on is my Jeep Wrangler, which was the very first car that I ever had on Turo, and I didn't get it for Turo. But all of my cars that I have, I spent significantly less than $10,000 on. So keep in mind that there is that entire like tier of vehicles that are less than $10,000, and I'm sure there's an entire tier of vehicles that are more than $200,000. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this exercise. I hope hope it kind of got your eyes opened on how you can calculate ROI and how you can compare different vehicles with Turo. Again, keep in mind this doesn't take into account maintenance or what the person actually paid for the vehicle. I'm sure that some of my estimations were incorrect here, and I also am sure that some of y'all will disagree with what I considered high-end supercar versus mid-tier. But anyways, I appreciate you checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that like button. I would greatly appreciate it. It really helps the YouTube algorithm. And make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can check out all my future content. I have videos coming out every Tuesday and Thursday, and they're over all things Turo, business, entrepreneurship, and everything in between. So I will see you guys in the next video.